Minnesota Original is made possible by the State Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
On this edition of Minnesota Original, costume and set designer Mathew LeFebvre creates nearly 200 new wardrobe changes, refreshing Guthrie Theater's classic, A Christmas Carol. Gwen Hauser reveals stories within layers of paint, plaster, glaze, and gold leaf on unstretched canvases. And the Salsa ensemble Charanga Tropical performs. These artists and more, now on Minnesota Original.
The funny thing is that a lot of times the productions that are most memorable to me, the costumes are the least memorable aspect of those. You know, that they're just really fantastic productions with an incredible ensemble. And the clothes are there to help tell the story, but nobody's gonna walk away humming the costumes. I'm Matt LeFebvre. I'm a costume and set designer working in theater. I've been fortunate enough to work with the Guthrie quite a bit. Penumbra Theater is kind of my home away from home in a way. I think my process is similar to a lot of designers. If I'm asked to do a project, then I'll read the script first to get a sense of what the playwright is trying to tell the audience. And then the next thing is to meet with whoever is directing. And, you know, some designers come in sort of already armed with images that they can refer to in discussing the design. I really like to have that first meeting without any of that. I really want to hear what the director's point of view is, why this play, why now. So I'm not coming in with any preconceived notions. Then I do rough sketches for each of the characters. And usually I have fabric swatches to sort of zero in on what the color palette will be. This was a fun production. This was the Guthrie's Importance of Being Earnest. You know, this is the country look. This is the city look, so it's more sort of jewel tones, darker, richer colors. I find it really difficult if I think about color first without having the fabric, because the fabric really is like, it's like a tool. It's like the paint in your palette in a way, really. Because it's telling us everything. It's the color, it's the texture, it contributes to the sort of mass. Everything about it is all the design elements are sort of contained in those fabric choices. Typically what I'll do is I'll have all the pencil sketches and I'll have bags full of fabric swatches. And I just start putting swatches on sketches. Anything I see as watching, what could this be? And then I'll kind of look at it and I'll start to lay the swatches down on the sketch. And then as I'm going through, I might be adding more and more and more. And how does this look, or how does this look? I'll stand back and start to look at how the sort of collage is being created with the fabrics. I'm currently working on the Christmas Carol with the Guthrie. It's a big show, so we're building bits of it every year for 3 years.
This is kind of a small character, but the amount of detail they bring to even the smallest character is kind of exquisite.
I really love this fabric, and the scale is huge, and it made me a little nervous. But DJ and Jeannie basically figured out how to cut it to feature areas like this in the front. And Tristan, would you mind just turning it around? And if you look at the detail in the back and the way that it works so well on Tracy's shoulders, it's gorgeous. I mean, it's just brilliant.
Okay, you have to look up the hoodie.
Okay.
The craftspeople here, the tailors and the drapers and the stitchers are really at the top of their game. So it's fantastic. I can't say it better than that.
I know what you are! I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come! Oh! Ghost of the future! I fear you more than any spectre I have seen!
Hold, please. Hold.
So here we are, we're in tech rehearsal. We found something out yesterday, our ghost of Christmas present. You know, he's in this big green fur-trimmed robe and bare-chested, and it seems a little off-putting. So we're looking at some options to put underneath this robe. There's something about this that I think is pretty great. So I think we should see how it works. Yeah.
What's amazing about so many of these costumes is that you don't realize what these costumes do until they get under these lights, and then suddenly there's just worlds of color in these. You think, oh, it's a brown coat, and then you get in there and it's amazing warmth and golds and just wonderful, wonderful array of color.
It's
This is a new adaptation of The Christmas Carol. I think we're around 185 costumes for this production.
To Uncle Scrooge, a long life and a Merry Christmas.
To Uncle Scrooge, a long life and a Merry Christmas.
We really wanted to show, especially with the Cratchit family, that they're barely making ends meet. So this is Mrs. Cratchit's dress. It's a linen fabric, so it just already inherently has this sort of rumpled quality to it. But then Sam did a lot of work in distressing and aging, and she painted into the costume. She painted dirt into the hem so that it would look much more worn.
There is something you must see.
This production of Christmas Carol is very gritty. It has a very gritty, dirty, sooty feel to it. There's a character, Merryweather, who is Scrooge's housekeeper. We really wanted her costume to be just horrible. It looks moldy, and it looks like it smells horrible, even though it doesn't.
That is a mother's cry. Yes, that is the howl of the mother who has lost her child.
For Ebenezer Scrooge, this year, John Cutler is playing Scrooge. And one of the things that we really wanted to play with his look is somebody who's, you know, really miserly, so that his clothes are 10 years at least out of date. And I found a lot of really interesting textures in the fabric that goes into his coat actually looks like it's worn away.
And as I hope to live to be another man from what I was.
So you really get this sort of, he's been around for a long time look to those clothes, which I think is great. We talked about adding a shawl to you today, so I don't think we quite have the right thing yet.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's a collaborative art. As a costume designer, you have the closest relationship with the performers, with the actor.
If you could only feel this coat.
It's nice. They might have ideas that, of course, we never thought of months in advance, that now that they're in rehearsals, really make sense. It's been really rewarding to help the actors create a part of the character, and that's reflected in the clothes.
You old Uncle Scrooge!
Yes.
Yes!
It's really great. It's gratifying to see it all come together when it works.
Oh, the rising of the sun and the running of the deer, the playing of the merry organ, sweet singing in the choir. La 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 la. Thank you.
This is the fun part, to figure the color out, because I have no idea what color I want to use. Sometimes I deliberately go for a color I think will be horrible. I know color really well, and it's easy for me to go right away for attractive, and it's more challenging for me to play with something I know might look awful. You know, so we'll see. The base of all my paintings starts with words. Very intuitive. I just pull the words from newspapers, books, just whatever resonates. So this is from June 1908. This is about Augsburg, become a seminarian, or become a minister. I just slap it down and try not to predetermine where that is going to go. I also really like the process of gluing. I think, again, because it keeps me from being precious. So the paintings are constructed in a way that there are many, many layers. As each layer unfolds, I also take the layers away. I sand through a lot of the layers. So like archaeology, I build it up and then I tear it apart. Then I dig and I take things away. This will have 3 layers. I'll probably put copper leaf on once the copper is on all the different levels, and then I glaze over the leaf. The glaze seeps into all the indentations, and beautiful. Being physical while I'm working and having the flexibility of having my canvases on the wall or putting them on the floor and moving them and interacting with them is a way for me to have my body show up in the work. So I'm not just so in my head. And I touch the surface of my paintings a lot, and I encourage people as soon as they come into my studios to touch, because I think there's information that we get, you know, from what touch tells us. It's kind of, the eyes can see something, but when the hand touches it, the hand can make that surface be in a sharper focus. You get it more clearly. I think it also leads your eye again into these tiny little details that happen when you rub the surface. This story is about a 13-year-old girl whose name was Aisha, and this is her picture. And she was raped by 3 men, but was blamed and stoned to death. And it's on so many levels, it's a disturbing story. So this piece is in honor of her and how helpless she was. In each of these areas is an image of her. And actually underneath this is the words from the newspaper enlarged on this curve that tell her story. The ravens, to me, are, you know, in mythology, they're a mediator between the human and the god or gods. In my way of storytelling, they're telling her story to whatever higher power it is. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that. Yum, yum, yum. And then again, the beauty of doing it on a surface that has dimension. When I come back and sand it, all the places that are the highest are going to get worn away. I love that I don't know where I'm going. Isn't that beautiful? Until that right time that I can see where the painting is going. The reason I'm drawn to history is just thinking about all the different people whose stories we've never heard. They maybe worked the land, or, you know, they didn't have a big fancy life, so nobody really talked about their story. I think I know when I'm done, the whole piece connects, when every part of it seems to work together. And I don't start out knowing that. So a lot of times I'm surprised.
qayb libaax, the lion's share. What luck on such a bright day. The beasts of prey were hunting together in the forests of Somalia. Late in the afternoon, they found a big, fat camel. They know me as Ma'allin Saeed nowadays by the word Ma'allin Saeed, which is always associated with my name, is the teacher. Basically, I am an educator, but I use art for education, and I teach through it.
Said Sallah is a very well-known poet. He's one of the very few living experts, that you can call them experts, of the Somali language, culture, and literature.
Lion's share is a traditional, famous story within the Somali folk tales. Somali language was an oral language for a long time.
One of the greatest tragedy that the Civil War, brought with is people like Said Sallah, who had, position and place in the society, were forced to reestablish themselves.
I would be eager to produce more, not only to Somali community, but also for all communities to read and to bridge between communities. They left with grief and spread out in the forest, chanting, "Lion's share is not fair. The lion's share is not fair."
For me, I always am trying to balance between art and architecture, between site and context, and between the artist and the community. Because I respond to the site and the context with my work, the work can be quite different from one piece to the next. My name is Janet Lofquist, and I'm a public artist. The piece Plunge was done a number of years ago for the University of St. Thomas for their St. Paul campus. The actual site or building was the Science and Engineering building. One of the elements that I used was a plumb bob, but used it maybe in a non-traditional kind of way. A lot of times when people think about sculpture, they think that it has to be vertical. And a lot of my pieces, you may realize, are actually more horizontal. And in this particular instance, I'm not only more horizontal, but I'm going into the ground with the piece. So I think that's an unexpected element in terms of what the piece is. Certainly, I had my reasons for creating the piece the way that I did, but again, I think people bring their own kind of meaning to it. So for some people it might be quite literal, for other people it might become more symbolic. I know when a piece is complete, when it brings a certain sense of place to the site, that it reinforces what the site is about, and it really forms this relationship to the site and to the context, that it adds another layer of experience for the public. I don't think you always have to get it. I certainly find that the works that I may be drawn to are that it can't be easily dismissed, that make me, think that it carries with me for a while. So, work can just function on a lot of different kinds of levels, and I think that's what I always am trying to get after, is what are those different kind of layers.
A lot of times I'm doing this in a tiny hotel room somewhere. I wish I had a better system, but the system that I have is, I have all of these markers in bags, and I have them sort of by color scheme. So I have a lot of blues and greens in this bag. I have another bag that has more warms, reds, yellows, golds, things like that. I've seen other designers who have like a thing set up, just like tubes set up, so almost like a quiver system. So you have a quiver of cool colors and warm colors, and that's really cool, but I don't think I'm ever gonna be that guy.
Minnesota Original is made possible by the State Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.